And here we are for another session of Duel Commander.
Hi everyone.
I'm back with Samuel. And on the left side, we have, surprise, a Spiderman 2099 coming right from the future against a pile that we don't see very often in a feature match, right?
True. And mulliganing to 5, so difficult game to start off with. But a Mother of Runes against a red deck is is a good start if it gets to stick.
Mm. This is
Uh,
the Arwen artwork that I think you also have. And
yes.
I think design-wise, those look pretty, but if you want to read the card, they are not
Tricky.
very well suited, you know?
Yeah, sure. I think there is some like new cards have at some points sacrificed readability to try to look cool. And we've seen that happening in Magic for a long time with like full arts with things like cryptic command and stuff like that. I think this isn't too different. Um,
Yeah,
and you just have to know what's written on the cards.
that's true. Yeah, I think the last time we've been to Strasbourg, François, so the Arwen player, was actually making the second place. So he's very dedicated with Zelesnia decks. We're in uh, contact with each other, and we shared some thoughts on Emara because, as you know, Samuel, I'm still a big fan of Emara. Not as much as back in the days, but it was a deck that I constantly tuned. Didn't play it too often because it felt rather cute. And
Yeah,
here we are with the free drop from Lord of the Rings. Pretty good
yeah, we have
card. You
some.
don't see it that often. Sometimes in the 99, but since, let me think about it. I think Marov might play the card in the 99.
Yeah, it's a tricky card to play because it's not very aggressive. It's a
Mm.
very defensive card, and it is very powerful, kind of on the board. Um, but if you are trying to kill the opponent as quickly as possible, you aren't really going to be able to do that with Arwen very well.
Yeah.
Um, so that probably also affects the way these lists are built. I don't have the list in front of me here, but for example, a 3/3 for 2 without many stats is okay, but yeah, the black white colors don't work too well in trying to kill the opponent quickly. You're playing a bit more of a mid-range game, and I mean, one of the
Black
cool
white? You
things
mean green
is
white? Or
green white. Yeah,
yeah,
did I have black white?
you said
Okay,
black white, I
yeah,
think. But yeah.
yeah. But like here, if he resolves an Arwen, then he has a very good board state against these kind of aggressive Spider-Man plays, as well as he would have a very good board state against any red deck wins deck. All these sorts of decks he's doing
Yeah.
pretty well against with a 2/2 indestructible lifelink creature.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those matchups where the Spider-Man player definitely needs to handle Arwen.
Yeah,
Otherwise, if it comes down, it has indestructible as long as a counter is on it. And later on, if you can afford to remove the counter, you even distribute some lifelink counters, which is also beneficial against that matchup. So far, we don't see much from the Spider-Man player. There is the pack leader on field. Another card that we don't see too often.
true.
And here we have a Solitude. Okay.
I think it's also like a color pairing that doesn't get to see that much play, which
Yeah.
means that we're going to see some cards that get kind of squeezed out by like these green X decks usually play red, and red gives a lot of powerful creatures that are always auto includes. Um, that mean that you don't get to play as many of the cool green creatures you'd like to play.
Mm.
And it's the same with white. So like when you pair white and green, you suddenly have a bit more room for some more fringe cards.
Yeah. So there is the Search of Salvation, I think it's called, as well as the Swift, which the Spider-Man player knows about due to the peak. Let's see if either of those spells come in handy later on. I'm not sure if the Solitude wasn't a bit too optimistic here. I mean, given the fact that this was a card that your opponent did not know of, and also you have two things to pitch. You can, if there is a combo coming in, you can use the Swift to shut down Spider-Man. Your opponent needs to handle that.
Yeah.
And there is also the option to Solitude it. Having two options as a backup doesn't seem too bad to me, especially for as long as the werewolf is still on field. And it seems that the Spider-Man player is just not seeing anything here in order to deal
Yeah.
with that. Which is a bit weird, to be honest, because the deck is
I
packed
mean, he
with
has
bolts
to,
and
and if he bolts it, then the surge comes in, and then if he counters the surge, he suddenly spent 2 cards there, which means that the opponent will get to resolve an Arwen very likely. So yeah,
I
this
get that.
this
I
is
get that. Yeah. Mm, but I mean, you're on 7 HP. It's not like you don't necessarily know what the Arwen player packed against that matchup. I think, if I remember correctly, I've seen the list. There are some funky includes for sure that people don't have on their radar. Those are cards that are hard to calculate into. I mean, there's, for example, I'm not sure if he still plays it, but the Balustrade Worm. You know this card even?
Oh,
It's like
wait.
5 mana, 5/5 trample haste or something with delirium, and you
Oh,
can
that
cast
one.
it from the graveyard.
I was
Something
thinking
like
about
this.
Panglacial Worm.
No, that would be that would be really cool.
That would be crazy. Crack
Yeah,
you've got 7 mana, you crack a fetch land, and you cast your Panglacial Worm.
yeah,
Um, that would be crazy. But
absolutely.
yeah, Balustrade Worm was from the horror set. What's it
Duskmon.
called?
Duskmon.
Duskborn? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is a bunch of cards that are, I'd say, on the verge, that are playable in some situations, and you can pack in metagames that counter spells more or remove creatures more, or, have these kind of act well in some complicated dynamics.
Mhm.
And if you are very sure what the metagame is going to be, then makes sense to kind of sideboard those cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you said,
Ooh.
the even if you're only playing, yeah, we have the Wild Ride here. So
We have a
Spider-Man.
wild ride here, so the Swift might come in, and if the Swift comes in and there's a counterspell for the Swift, then there could be lethal. If there's a counterspell for the Swift, there could be lethal.
I mean,
You
not
can't crack
for
the fetch,
yes,
and
but you have to. So the Search could give protection from hexproof from red. It gives hexproof to you and the
true,
creatures.
true, yeah,
So in this case, if I mean, if the Swift goes through, nothing happens, can't even attack. And here, since the information is given, opponent
yeah.
reads the card
He lets
again.
him read the card.
Yeah. I mean, if it isn't for another boost spell, I think you're basically dead here. And there is another boost spell. Okay.
Well, what do you mean another boost spell?
Well, now Spider-Man is at 8 with double strike. You
Oh, yeah,
deal 16
yeah,
damage.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're correct.
So now is the time to come in
With the Swift, and
with the
if there's a
Swift.
counter spell for the Swift, he
He's basically dead
yeah,
because only grants hexproof. There's a change the equation, which deals with the Swift, and now we have a
ends the game.
lethal combat step. That's how to steal the game with Spider-Man. And I'm pretty sure most of the people watching this video right now with us are familiar with a situation like this against the deck. It has happened to most of us already, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, you're on a comparably high amount of life or high life totals, and you feel safe. Like if you compare it to playing against Red Deck Wins, for example, being on 16 is something that you could dream of in turn 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Against Spider-Man, it says nothing, as we just saw.
I mean, it says nothing, but the only reason he won here was because he found the second. He found in the 80 cards remaining in his deck, he found both of the pump spells. So
Yeah,
and
true.
sure that happens, but that's not something you calculate for, I would say. And I think it's very
Absolutely.
unreasonable to calculate for something like that happening.
No, I don't say that. I'm just saying that it feels rather awkward to lose against something like this, you know? And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just had in mind when Marcus was playing at this event, he told me 3 times or something, because on Saturday he also faced 3 Spider-Mans and I faced 4 Spider-Mans on Sunday. That, you know, there are those play patterns at which people bring together Cloud, Wild Ride, or Reckless Charge because you play those cards for obvious reasons and they all end up in the same pattern. And of course, that's frustrating if you play against a control deck, rather a control deck, because most of those lists are not featuring too many creatures. And then all of a sudden you lose 12 x 15 whatsoever life, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's how it is. Here we have a Worldly Tutor, Solitude, Mana Type, and another card. The screen just turned a bit brighter. Yeah,
So this is the raccoon, right?
yeah, that's
In
the
play? Yeah.
guy that's. Oh, and here we have a Magus of the Moon that sees the Mana Type. That's a well spent Mana Type. And an even better Mental Misstep. That's brutal. I mean, it would have been very good for Arwen if Saga would be on the second stage already. In this case, the Magus would be badly. Oh, it's a Sentinel. I would not expect him to play this card,
What's
actually.
Sentinel?
The green Merfolk that 3/4 Vigilance creates a map token on ETB and attack.
Ah, that's in hand, you mean?
Nameless City. Yeah, that's in his hand
Okay.
right now.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So yeah, if we were playing with old rules, this Magus would be a lot more punishing.
Yeah, that's right.
But since what is this card?
That's a Zurak.
That
4/3
is
can't be countered
okay. Yeah.
trample. And
Yeah.
whenever you or a creature, I think, becomes the target of a spell or ability, you draw a card.
So yeah, that one forest in play is granting him quite a lot of access to spells. He
Yep,
gets to play the Zurk, he gets to play the Sentinel. There
definitely.
is I say there is a question whether he casts the Zurk or the Sentinel. because the Sentinel gives map tokens that have the ability to find him more lands,
I mean,
but the Surak pushes more damage and also lets him. Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I was just about to say, when you play Zurok, you play around days. If you play the other thing, then your opponent can decide, is it worth it to counter the card? I know that there is a Zurok coming down at some point, giving a bit more information, but yeah. Subtlety, again, the perfect answer here. Not sure if it's correct to put it on top again.
I mean,
Since
what does finding a land? Yeah, sure, finding a white land, finding a plains is good,
yeah,
but the chance of finding a land is not that high.
yeah, that's right.
So I guess I think having access to wow,
Okay.
these are
Here we
very
go again.
premium draws
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the Spider-Man
And
player's
now he
side
won the game already, right? Because he can harmonize. Yeah. And
to
then
do 18 damage. Yeah.
to do 8 damage with the trigger. And this way he did 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you wish to play Spider-Man all day long.
Wow, and he had a Fury in hand as well.
Yeah.
That's
That's
so that's what you call having everything. A mental
exactly.
misstep for the mana tithe. I wish I drew like that in tournaments.
Me too. Well, was an interesting game. I think Arwen did its best to beat his opponent down. First game was a
Yeah, I
bit
think put up a
closer, I
good
would
fight.
say. Yeah,
Not sure how many dorks the list plays, but
I think it plays all the
it
dogs.
okay. Dork hands
Yeah,
would have been very strong here. He
yeah,
didn't find any of those, and yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes.
that's right. Okay, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. And we will see each other in round 4.
See you next time.
Bye bye.